out of Sacramento, California.
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better. Stronger.
Son of a bitch.
Faster.
Oh, yeah!
All right, so today, what I actually wanted to talk about is something that's helped me for a very long time. A lot of people often want to talk about it, and that's Kratom. We're not even allowed to mention it on Instagram anymore. If you mention it on Instagram, you will have your posts taken down. You'll have it flagged, you'll have it taken down. Kratom has been a very effective tool. Let me first explain what Kratom is. It is just a plant from Southeast Asia, mainly comes from like Thailand and Indonesia and places like that. And it is a plant that's in the same family as the coffee plant. And it's something that will kill pain. It is a mild opioid, so it does hit what's called the mu opioid receptor. It's a mild opioid, but it is very different from the opioids of abuse. It's obviously way different than taking fentanyl. It's way different than taking a Vicodin, a Percocet, or anything in that opioid family. And the reason why is very simple. Kratom does not produce beta-arrestin. It's hard to say that Kratom is not addictive because we have seen people become dependent on it when they take it in very large quantities for a long time. However, part of that addiction is mental, just like any addiction. And maybe some of it is what we call these physical hooks that sort of like get in there and make you want to take more. However, the interesting thing with Kratom is if you actually look into the science and look into the research, Kratom doesn't produce or recruit what's called beta-arrestin, and therefore it is not going to cause respiratory depression. Respiratory depression means you stop breathing. That's what kills people from opioids. You always see these stories of a mom who never took opioids in her life, and she just took one pill and she went to bed and she woke up, or she never woke up, you know? And it's a really sad story that we hear recounted all the time. Like, say, for example, like something simple like your wife, housewife, right? She hurts her back doing laundry. Somebody puts her on opioids. Next thing, find a disaster, right? Those things can happen very easily to just like normal everyday people. Not saying that it happened to your wife. I'm just saying it could happen to anybody. Any normal person gets put on an opioid, and what they have to do is when you take 2 Percocets after like a week or two, 2 Percocets is no longer enough because it's producing this stuff called beta-arrestin, which makes your body want more and more of it. And that's what causes people to up their tolerance. Like they get a tolerance. It causes the tolerance to increase, and the amount required to get you high or make you feel good has to increase. Well, Kratom doesn't have that. So the people that are like, oh yeah, I started taking 2 grams of Kratom and now I'm up to 30. Well, that's on you. That has nothing to do with the plant. That has everything to do with you overdoing it. It's just like, hey man, you know what? I started eating these Oreos and I had 2 every day and I was fine for years and I never got fat. But now I eat 100 a day and I've gained a lot of weight. Mark always says the fattest thing in the world, this is an addiction with ice cream, is like when you open the Ben and Jerry's, you just throw the cap right away.
Oh my God.
Like you don't even consider going like, I'm going to go back for seconds.
Like that's a complete, are you fat? Is that something we talked about? Are you fat? Because that was
It's
something
kind
I
of
was
like, are you garbage? Or
yeah,
are you fat?
Are you fat? Are you fat? Are you fat? Do you just eat from the Ben and Jerry's?
So a lot of that behavior though, it's an addiction. It's something that you're addicted to, that you need more of or you want more of. But with Kratom, what I find really interesting is we don't have this beta-arrestin problem, which also makes Kratom very, very safe for everyone. Nobody's ever died from just taking Kratom, with just Kratom in their system. I've gotten so many people that have hit me up with all these stories, and they give me they read me the riot act. I can't believe that you're promoting something that's highly addictive, blah, blah. To me, it's the one performance-enhancing drug that's out there that's still legal in every major sport. There's no reason why every single athlete shouldn't at least try taking Kratom, because it can really, really improve your performance. There's no real studies ever done on it, which is really interesting. But if something can completely clear your body of all physical pain, or most physical pain, it's not going to get rid of all of it, but it can get rid of a lot of it. So if it clears your body of physical pain, you're there for performance enabled, right? Sort of like taking a cortisone shot before you train. But to me, performance enabling is performance enhancing because there are parts of the sport that you might be reserved from doing because something hurts. Whereas like when you're on Kratom, you'll just go through and do it. Now, that can be dangerous if you have a real injury and you're going to hurt it more by, running on it or jumping on it or whatever. But we all know these like minor aches and pains. That's not what's going on. It's not like it's like we have little aches and pains once in a while. And a lot of those things can be cleared up by simply taking Kratom and then going out and playing your sport. But the other thing it does is give you intense focus, right? It makes you focused and it makes you like very hyperactive almost, to the point where you just want to talk to everybody. You're happy. You're in a good mood. And I think that goes a long way into helping a lot of people get through their day. I don't think that people should take Kratom every day, but I also think that if you're in chronic pain like I am, that it's okay. Like we need to be okay with stuff, right? Like so many people are saying to me, I can't believe you promote that, blah, blah. Like you just have no empathy for the amount of pain that I'm in every day.
It's legit a form of ignorance. It's legit a form of ignorance. I don't think they maliciously are attacking your character. They just don't know any better.
And I can tell you the difference because I've done it. When you take opioids, they make you feel like you can run through a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to Mark, and we were on a walk, and I was very sad. I said, I don't know what's happening to me, but the last couple of weeks, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. I've gone back to like full carnivore of like just meat and water. Been trying to figure out where these pain issues come from. And the one thing I can tell all the people in the carnivore community is they definitely don't go away when you just eat meat. That's not a thing, It can help, I think, reduce the bloat in your body. I think it can reduce the amount of water that you're carrying. I do think it can definitely have an impact on inflammation in the body. But there's something else going on because I've done all these things. Like I've eaten meat for months on end when I first started, and didn't really feel a full resolution in all these injuries and problems. So I went back to taking Kratom, Also in there, we've talked about this a lot. I've done Ibogaine. And I think Ibogaine is a great example of something that can be used maybe even more long-term. And because I don't have enough information yet on Ibogaine, I haven't really been talking about it that much because I did it and it had an amazing, profound effect on my body for about 4 months where I didn't need to take Kratom at all. Didn't take it once. I don't want to say I didn't take it for almost a year, like at all. And then the pain started coming back and I'm a denier, like, no, the Ibogaine worked. Like it definitely worked. It had to work. I made a movie that's like, this is awesome. Like it's got to work. And so you sort of get behind your own hypothesis sometimes, even if you don't believe them. And I think that also happened to me in carnivore. I think if you go back and like read a lot of the posts that I did when I was like totally carnivore, I willed myself into wanting it to work so badly that I convinced myself that it kind of did work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's done wonders for me. It's done great things. I mean, I still do the carnivore diet because it's where I found a lot of the resolution, but not the whole thing. And I just want to be very honest and clear and open about that sometimes you're not going to find all your resolution in one thing. And that's why we're leaning on several tools. For example, I said, I'm going back to 100% carnivore diet just to see if I can resolve these pain issues. If I can, that would be great for me to know, like, okay, I can go back to this will work. Like I said, I don't remember enough to remember how well it worked before because it was like 5 years ago. So it's hard to remember. Like, did I have full resolution? Did I not have full resolution? I was still in the honeymoon period of the diet where you're all excited about the diet and you think like, oh, okay, this is going to do wonders. And obviously not to disparage anything that Sean Baker, Michaela Peterson, or Paul Saladino says. Like, I love all those people. I think they've done great things for the world and for the carnivore community by putting out information that they do. But I think we also need to be a little bit more careful about teasing these things out. How long does somebody need to try this in order to see resolution? And I also agree with Dr. Baker. Some people try it, and that's all that was wrong. They were just eating bad, and they were bloated, and they were like they weren't feeling good and their stomach hurt and their joints hurt because they were holding a lot of water because they were eating a lot of sodium and eating a lot of carbohydrates, and that stuff holds on to water. And when they dump the 8 pounds of water, and when people go, oh, you did keto, well, you just lost water weight, or you did carnivore, you just lost water weight. Well, good. I don't want to walk around with a gallon. A gallon of water is 8 pounds, right? So basically imagine that your body is holding a gallon of water in it, and you do keto, and it gets rid of that gallon, a whole gallon of water out of your body. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel less inflamed.
Can you imagine though? Like, can you imagine sleeping on or discrediting? What if keto or carnivore helps you break food addiction? How can you be? That's so casually dismissed. Like, what percentage of Americans deal with food addiction, sugar addiction? If cleaning down to meat or cleaning down to just
nobody's actually addicted to sugar. Nobody. I have never seen it once. I've never seen a sugar addiction.
You don't think there's dopamine issues?
I've seen a sugar and fat addiction. You know, I've seen a sugar and processed food addiction. Right. So like, but have you ever seen somebody sitting there with a bowl of sugar, spooning it in their mouth? By itself, it's almost harmless. You know, like you could eat a teaspoon of sugar by itself, and what's that going to do? Nothing really. But the problem is that we bake it in to a bunch of, cakes and cookies and things that have fat and also have protein and carbohydrates and everything else in it, right? And so our calories get cranked up. And what we're really addicted to are things that are starchy and sweet, right? Salty and sweet also. Well, so when I say I've never seen a sugar addiction is almost just to be a little bit of a dick to you, but just to make a point that it's not an actual addiction to a bowl of sugar.
Right.
It's an addiction to
processed foods.
These processed foods.
Yeah.
And you're
Which
right.
is sugar, though.
And you're very right. So how do we get rid of that? Well, we get rid of the processed food, right? One of the slippery slopes with a carnivore diet is that people will say, oh, well, you eat fruit and that's sugar and that's going to, impede your progress and all these things like that. But what they don't understand is that fruit has so many other cofactors in it that allow your body to digest it and allow your body to break it down in a way that's not going to cause pain and inflammation. Most people that eat fruit on any diet, any sort of diet, seem to lose weight. Seems to be the one thing that helps people like knock down their weight. And the more that I go towards, like I said, the more I'm doing this sort of full carnivore diet, the less I'm leaning on fruit. But like yesterday, I had an apple.
This might be a ridiculous question, okay? If this is a ridiculous question, just go, that's a little ridiculous. But like this whole theory of if you load your body with sugar, it won't turn to the fat because it's going to grab the simple fuel before it grabs the harder fuel first. If you are eating just meat and fruit or just meat and salads or something like that, is it better to separate those meals?
That's an interesting question, and it's not a stupid question at all. It's a great question, actually. So that is still up for debate, right? I feel like certain foods can help with the digestion of meat. Like, for example, kiwi fruit has great science behind it that shows that it can actually help you build muscle better. It helps to increase muscle protein synthesis. Does that mean that you need to eat the kiwi with your steak? Probably not. I would say this. I would say you would be better off all the time consuming things like one at a time, right? So like, say you had a steak and then maybe an hour later you want a snack, hey, I cut up a couple kiwis and you eat that. Just from a standpoint of like blood glucose and different things like that.
That's kind of why I'm asking.
I think you're probably better off, but I would imagine that it doesn't matter all that much because it's going to come down to like calories in the end. Sean Baker just went over an interesting study, and I don't want to really repeat it because I don't have all of the information, but basically it was a study on, like a no carb diet versus like a regular diet. And we do see that there is a little bit more fat loss. There is a little bit more weight loss. There are some advantages to this keto stuff. Like you can eat a little bit more calories, but it's very little, right? A very little amount. So when somebody like Lane Norton says, well, it's all about calories, he's kind of got us in a corner. I mean, he's kind of right, But are there ways around that? Of course. I mean, Mark eats a ton of food every day. He eats a lot. And but everything is really protein rich. Everything's really rich in protein and usually not that high in fat. And but Mark will use things that are high in fat to offset it. Like he'll have bone broth, and sometimes he'll just throw some butter in it because it tastes better. And it's like, I'll throw some eggs in it. He'll give it more protein, and then he'll give it a little bit more fat. And sometimes that seems to help with that. But I think that if you're just eating meat and fruit, I don't think that it matters what time, what time of day that you take it in. The one thing that I'm very, very skeptical of in my own diet, and I've had a very hard time getting rid of it, is cheese. And for whatever reason, and I have not seen any studies on this, I've not even looked this up, but I probably should. For some reason, I feel like I hold on to all my weight. And no pun intended, but when I cut the cheese, I feel like those problems go away. Like if it's just meat, and I cut out eating like cheeseburgers and stuff, for whatever reason, like I feel better. But I love cheese, and I love putting cheese on stuff. And the option of dairy expands the carnivore diet so big to a point where like now you can have all these really cool things. Like you can eat all this stuff. Like yesterday I made what Mark calls a deconstructed meatball. Basically, instead of guys like us trying to make little meatballs and, you got to like sear them first and then you got to cook them and like you don't have to do any of that. You just cook ground beef, throw pork panko and Italian seasoning in there, and you throw some cheese in there and some Parmesan cheese, and it tastes like meatballs. And you can put some tomato sauce on it if you want. You can just eat it plain like I did yesterday. And it is absolutely incredible. And I opted for raw cheese. It's kind of expensive, but I feel like the raw cheese has like, it has all these probiotics in it that are supposed to be better for you. Is it better for you? I don't know. For like $10 for like a little thing of cheese, it's kind of expensive. But that's what I switched over to because I feel like, well, this might be better. Maybe a better version. But I am actually I'm not interested in dropping the cheese out of my diet because I don't want, like, some of the things I love most in life come from dairy, and they're cream, butter, and cheese. without those things, it's really hard for me to like really eat anything. And like, honestly though, when you really dial it down to it, maybe like that's what I really need to do in order to get to where I want to go. Because if you look at it, if I took out heavy cream, that means I'd like remove my morning coffee, take out the heavy cream, and I take out butter. That would remove I put butter on like everything.
I mean, eggs without butter is almost sacrilegious to me.
Yeah, well, I would stop eating eggs because I can't have butter. I would stop eating a bunch of other stuff, and it would leave me with what? Meat and water, which is really hard to do, which would really be more of like a diet where I'm just starving a lot, I think, because I don't get this appetite to like eat like steak after steak after steak. But if it's like a steak with butter, it's like that'll satisfy me for a couple hours, Where if I'm just eating the steak by itself, and I don't know, steak after steak, well, we'd have to see. But it'll be good to test out. I have a new grill coming, and it's actually supposed to arrive today.
Really? What'd you get?
Yeah, so this grill, you can even look this up. It's called Gemelli.
Chris, you got this? Oh, Chris. Wow.
So now we have this Gemelli grill, which this is what I was asking the Auto Wild guys, because I think that this is the key. The Auto Wild needs to be kept outside, and it uses a propane tank. This Gemelli Gourmet Steak Grill, it's basically just made for steak. And what it does is it heats up to 1,560 degrees to perfectly sear your steak. Now, the question I ask is, how is it in the middle? It's 1,500 degrees, and it heats up. How's that taste in the middle? Like, how's the steak taste in the middle of the steak where you're... So I know it'll cook the outside really well, but do I got to... that's the big pain in the ass with cooking a steak, is you want to sear the outside, but you want the inside to be nice and, medium rare. And if I can get the timing right on this thing, I'll probably be able to nail that.
I think my brother, who used to be a chef for like some Italian restaurant in Monterey, I think he called that black and blue. I think where it's really seared on the outside, but super rare on the inside.
That is a technique. I don't tend to really like steak that way. I like it to be a little cooked.
Uh-huh.
You know, I like the medium rare.
Yeah.
It also might be a thing where you throw it in there and it's like, 1560 degrees and it cooks for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then you pull it out and you just let it rest a real long time. And that might be I found in general with my steaks that resting them is the key.
Yeah.
Like we're so anxious to eat that you like cook the steak and you like even you cook the steak and you use the thermometer and everything, it's going to be perfect inside. I still like have this tendency to open up the grill, take it out and just like slice it right open to see how it came out. But you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to like wait 10 minutes and then slice it open and see how it came out.
I've been waiting 20 lately, and it just holds all the juices that way.
What's amazing is if you have a fatty steak. So I usually really lean Piedmontese steak. But if you have a fattier steak, that fat, when you like let it sit out a little bit longer, like maybe 20 minutes, it starts like melt, like it gels up.
Congeals? Is that the right
Congeal?
word?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It does that when it for example, back to pizza. You get the pizza delivered from Domino's in like their special space age bags, and they open up and you go to take that first slice, and the first slice always kind of sucks. It's too hot.
Yeah.
It's like the cheese is still bubbling almost, right? Like
absolutely.
It's too hot. But you wait like 15 minutes, your pizza's like perfect.
Yeah.
It's not cold, but it's not hot anymore. It's just kind of like warm. And that's where steak excels too, in that pizza area. Right where like the pizza gets good.
The right temperature is everything, isn't it?
It is. It's like pizza too cold gets like stiff and gross. But man, pizza on its way down, cooling down, that's the place to get it. So you should probably stop talking about pizza.
That looks awesome, Chris. I'm not a jealous
but anyway, I think
word, but that looks awesome.
Yeah, so this thing will maybe help me in my pursuit to stick to more carnivore. The only reason I really want to do this is I've talked to people at length, and Michaela Peterson has had a lot of pain in her life. She's the only one I know that's had like severe pain. And one thing I haven't asked her, but I was gonna text her and ask her is, does she take anything? Like is she on some sort of medication for her rheumatoid arthritis? Is there any? I don't know.
Well, that's what I kind of wanted to. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but you know how you were saying going carnivore doesn't eliminate all pain. I mean, maybe it did for her though. I mean, like not everybody's root cause of the pain could be different, right?
Sure. Maybe it does for her. She has different kind of like arthritis, different kind of pain.
That autoimmune issues that took her hips and her ankles or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's dealing with something severe.
Yeah, so she had a surgery at like 7 years old.
Yeah.
Like her ankles or something like. So I'm just curious I'm curious as part of the experiment if she's taking anything. It's almost like, is she natty or not? Because if she's natty, she's not taking anything at all, and she's getting full resolution out of this, well, maybe I need to give this more time. Maybe I need to do it. Say, you know what? For the next 2 months, I'm just going to eat, or 3 months maybe even, I'm just going to eat all meat and water. And then, what's interesting enough is who's inspired me to get back on it, kind of because he's a knucklehead, and I know him, is Brendan Schaub. And he looks great. And he's been doing a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
He looks great. The only reason I say he's a knucklehead is I hear him like talking about it, and he's so dogmatic about it, but he's dogmatic and that really works for him.
Right.
So I don't see a problem with it. Like not everything Brendan's saying is exactly right science-wise, and he knows that. He'll be like, I'm an idiot. I don't know. And sometimes kind of just knowing the rules is better than knowing why the rules work.
But he clearly has cheat meals. He has that food truck diet.
He definitely has cheat meals, and he talks about that.
Yeah.
And he does something very similar to me, where if my workday involves, I'm working with Mark today, and we're going to somewhere, or we're going to a restaurant or whatever, with the family, like maybe I'll eat a little bit off the diet, but it's never like, and Brendan's kind of the same way. It's never way off the diet. It's just like, you'll still have some meat, but maybe I'll have a taco shell with it, or maybe I'll have like whatever, else with it. Like for me, it's usually maybe I'll have a salad, maybe I'll have whatever.
I mean, that I sent a clip of your brothers to somebody I met on Instagram, and I got to tell you, I know social media relationships aren't as good as like what we have face to face, but you really get to meet some nice, interesting, well-wishing, good people on social media every now and then too. And I sent that protein leveraging video that Mark's done. I'll tag it in this video on, that's what the Bell Bros have shown me. Two things the Bell Bros have shown me. Protein leveraging works, and if you're intentional, you can do that on the go. I mean, amongst other things. But those were the first two things that you guys really taught me from afar before getting to know you guys, like I've been fortunate to, is just start with protein. Get the protein as high as possible, and everything else sort of takes care of itself.
And then the other thing that we talk about all the time that I just wasn't sure how effective it was. Like, so I was walking 20,000 steps a day every day I did that for like 2 months straight, and my weight was around like 190. I was getting real lean. I felt great, and because I said like I felt like I got hit by a truck lately, I've been walking a lot less. I can still walk the same amount. Like physically, I can probably still walk the same amount. Just doesn't feel as good. I don't feel as happy doing it. But I realize that actually goes a long way for me, into like my weight loss and how I feel. And so I got back out walking again. I took probably 2 weeks off of like trying to hit an intentional amount of steps every day. And I always think like, the walking's not really doing anything anyway. Like it feels like it's not doing anything. But then when you actually look at it and look at your weight and look at the scale and look at things that are going on in your body, like, oh no, that was actually doing something.
So, okay. So right along that line, so I have my kid, I'm there with, as the Liver King has showed me, I make my kid do 100 burpees before any time I let him ingest food or fun. I have him use his rower in the morning, or our rower in the morning, and he goes at it pretty casually. I don't see him. He hasn't found the fun of an endorphin rush yet. He doesn't push hard enough to get there. But is there something to be said for this whole fat burning zone? Like, if you is that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big problem that I have, and we should actually discuss that. So, like the zone 2 cardio, getting your heart rate up to like about 120 to 130, like in that range, is where you should be, right? All I can physically do really is walk. I don't have any other option. I can't get my heart rate up there.
Right.
Like I can't. There's So Mark and I were talking about it, and there's a couple things that I can do that get my heart rate up that I can physically handle. I can go on a Stairmaster. So I can go join another gym because we don't have one here, and maybe go on a Stairmaster, and my heart rate will get up, be a certain level.
Dude, I can bring a guest to Planet Fitness. You want to take off and go to Planet Fitness with me? I was actually thinking about going to Planet Fitness just for this same reason. I was thinking, how dangerous would it be for me to turn around and walk backwards down a Stairmaster, because I'm trying to work on that eccentric strength aspect, which I have none of, for my weight at least. And I was thinking maybe walking backwards on one of those Stairmasters would be really good for me to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that'd be hard to say. I mean, like you said, is it dangerous?
Yeah.
And it may be.
Maybe. Yeah.
And that's something that you want to consider, is like, might be more dangerous. If going up the stairs backwards is helpful in any way, like if that's a knees over toes kind of thing, I would just suggest doing it in your house would be hard enough, your own body weight. Doing it somewhere like, where there's just regular stairs. It would probably be safer than getting on a machine that is going to dump you off somewhere,
Yeah,
and less embarrassing.
Maybe I'd need to just go to the curb next to my house and just get one of those poles that I see you guys use and just practice going up and down the curb.
And that's the thing for me, is like, I just haven't found the thing. For example, like we have a treadmill here, and it's a Peloton treadmill. It's like a high-end, awesome treadmill. And in order to get my heart rate up into like the 120, I need to be on like a pretty steep incline, and it needs to be going about 3 miles an hour. Well, I can only go on a steep incline at like 2 miles an hour. I can't get up to 3 miles an hour, And so it's hard for me to get into that range. And then people say ride a bike. I'm like, riding a bike hurts way worse than walking for me. Like, I can't sit on a bike. My body's too sensitive. It's too achy. I sit on a bike and everything just feels worse. I'm like trying to grab, for me to reach and grab handlebars, it's like, well, my shoulder's messed up. It doesn't grab the handlebars good. I'm not comfortable sitting upright on it. I'm not comfortable in any way on it. So it's like, well, how do you work around it? That's what's been difficult, is trying to get my heart rate up into those zones. And that's a lot of times why I still lift heavy weights and move heavy things. The only things I can do that are really like intense and get my heart rate screaming, do things like gym. And so the other option is to like maybe cut my workouts to a point where I literally just keep doing sets until I get my heart rate way. Things along those lines. But yeah, I haven't figured that part out yet, But I feel like with all this stuff, I'm so close to like figuring it all out, Like I got myself in pretty good shape, but I want to take it to the next level, and it's just hard to take it to that next level without, like everybody wants to tell you what to do, but they don't understand pain. And going back to like the Kratom, that's why I use stuff like Kratom. If I didn't use it, I probably can't make it through the workouts. So the people that want to say like, oh, well, you're on Kratom, like whatever, like, it's like, hey, look, I can't do this without this. And so it's either I roll over and die, say, forget about it, or I utilize something that's going to allow me to do it. And I think that that's what Kratom does for me, what it does for a lot of people. Help to take a pill to fool the test? Is it just fooling the test, or is it actually doing something in your body? And those things are so hard to parse out.
I mean, I gotta imagine there's a good portion of your audience that's night workers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get sun. I mean, it's gotta be a reluctant second choice, right? If you can't get enough sun on your own.
Well, for example, people like eczema, people with dark skin. If you have dark skin, you get way less vitamin D.
Right.
He is a machine, a specimen of a person.
Yeah.
It's like, does he need to be supplementing with a ton of vitamin D, or do we have this all wrong? Like, if it's not found in the body and not found in food, should our levels actually really be up here? What happened to make, like, I'm more interested in the vitamin D story of like, what happened that we now need this in our diets as a supplement? It's like literally the only supplement that you'll hear every single doctor say, well, you got to supplement with vitamin D.
Yeah.
And you go,
what happened?
went
We
wrong?
became indoor cats. I watch these kids. I go pick up my kids every day from school. Half of them can't even jog. You see half of them, they sort of trot like a Clydesdale, that clumsy looking Clydesdale. And this is an elementary school. And kids do not, we have scared ourselves indoors, and between the fear of getting your kid kidnapped and the comfort of Nintendo Switches, our kids do not want to go outside anymore. And as parents, we've been convinced that we are putting their lives at risk by letting them go outside unless we're outside with them the entire time. When I was a kid, I would go outside 4 or 5 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And there's no way my parents would have went out there with me 4 or 5 hours at a time. That's a weird expectation to put on parents, to say you need to hand watch your kid. I mean, obviously when they're 2, that makes sense. But at some point, children need to learn to become a little bit more autonomous.
Yeah.
And kids just don't do it anymore, Chris. It's an aspect of parenting where you feel damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you have your kid in outside, they're comfortable, they're happy, they're content, but it's not good for them. You put them outside, you literally feel like, am I putting my child's safety at risk by, is one of the other kids gonna beat them up, or is some creep gonna throw them in a van? And as a society, I'm telling you, it's taking its toll on our society. There's no doubt about it.
It is interesting that we have all these public places, and we have people, like you go to a public pool, there's a lifeguard. You go to a public park and there's no lifeguard,
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, maybe there should be. Like maybe we need people, maybe we need to make sure our parks are safe. Maybe we need to make sure our outdoor areas are safe. How do we, and maybe it's not that, but like, how do we do that?
No.
Because it is terrible the amount of time that people spend inside.
You raise a really good point. When my youngest went to elementary school, I'd go pick him up, or my elder child, and these people would drive. They're driving 40, 50 right in front of the school.
Yeah.
And there was a pretty robust Facebook group in our town that I went on to, and I made a comment like, someone has got to fix. We got to get police in front of this school.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kid's going to get killed. And it was incredible, the backlash I would get from cops have better things to do with their time. And I'm thinking,
Then protect children from
fucking
dying?
A, Chris. Are
Yeah.
you exactly?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, we need to worry about someone rolling through a stop sign, and obviously, of course, yeah, there's some safety there with pedestrians and stuff. But when the kids get released, that's when all the cops need to be there to make sure everyone's protecting our kids. Hell yeah, we should have parks being patrolled. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's someone there, it is America, and
Or
we are
even
supposed to have
just
rights.
like why we have we're a surveillance state now. Why aren't there cameras at every park? Every single park have cameras up on poles. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
If
So
you take
that-
a kid, we will find you and you will suffer.
So it's not that somebody needs to be monitoring it all the time.
Uh-huh.
It's not like,
That's a good point.
but like, what if parents could? What if you lived in Davis, California, where I live, say,
Right.
and it's a small town,
Right.
and I could log on to like davisparks.com and look at any webcam because my kids at that park, I just want to keep an eye on them. They're at that park, I want to keep an eye on them.
Right.
Whatever, I can type into that thing. But if something does happen, they always have the video.
I mean, the government's surveilling us already. Let's let the citizens at least get some of the benefit of that, right?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not against it because it's like, what would I be doing in a park that would be bad anyway?
Right.
You know? In Davis, what we could do is we could police all the people that are really wealthy and think they're above the law, and they let their dog shit on the ground without picking it up.
Yeah.
Dude, I hardcore stare people all the time. I see it all the time. Like grown adults in their 50s and 60s let their dog take a shit like right in the park.
Yeah.
And I just take my phone out and I start filming them.
Yeah.
They know exactly why I'm filming them.
Yeah.
They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
They know that they're busted.
Yeah.
And I don't say anything.
Yeah.
And what do? They somehow find a bag. And
Well, the bag's always in their pocket. They just hope they don't have to pull it out.
They go and pick it up. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to watch that, to watch people kind of squirm.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones? You never did, right?
No.
Oh, dude, you're missing it. That shame.
Yeah. Kind of shaming them. And
I'll clip that, and I'll find that clip for you.
I know that dog poop is biodegradable and it's going to go away, but when it's in a public place, people are going to step in it.
Yeah.
If it's in your own yard, I don't care. Let the dog poop in your yard. I don't care.
Right.
But not on my yard.
Right.
Not where I'm walking.
Right.
Not where I'm going.
For sure. Yes, for sure. That's great, Chris.
All right. Well, we should probably close this out. We talked about everything under the sun, and I don't want to get into more because we'll just keep going forever.
Some cool stuff on the horizon, though, right?
Yeah, we're doing all sorts of cool shit here.
Yeah.
People should come train with us at the gym.
Absolutely.
Super Training Gym, 855 Riverside Parkway, West Sacramento, California. Come check us out. Catch you guys later. Later.